What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikiPikaPapa, and I am so excited to share this video with you today. I think if you are in this hobby, if you're a growth collector, if you're collecting these cards, but you secretly hope they're going to grow in value over time, or if you're just a hardcore Pokemon investor, or even if you're just in it to win it and just enjoy the hobby overall, I think there are all kinds of cool learnings in this video. We're going to talk about some of the things that we've learned over the last year. We're going to talk about some support lines and breakout points, and we're going to kind of tie it all together. And this video really does kind of encompass everything that I was hoping to be able to accomplish when I first started the PikiPikaPapa channel. And by that I mean I warehouse a ton of data and I have a ton of fun doing it. Usually around the 15th of every single month. I did it a little earlier for Sword and Shield this month because of the holiday, but around the 15th of every month I'll pull up Pokedata.io on one screen of my computer system, I'll pull up my Excel sheets on the other side, and I will transpose all of the top 20 singles card prices from that website into my Excel spreadsheets, and I do it for every single set that has a booster box in the Sword and Shield era, in the XY era, in the Sun and Moon era, and now in the Scarlet and Violet era. And I do it so I can show you graphs like this on this page, right? These are the top 20 singles cards from all of the sets that have booster boxes in Sun and Moon. This is their aggregate value and how it has moved over time. Now, I will tell you, as I said, I do it for XY, I do it for Sun and Moon. I don't do individual videos for those anymore because nobody watched them. So instead, I do a state of the hobby video at the end of every single month. And if you want to see what's going on in XY and Sun and Moon, I just did one for last month and it's got a lot of really cool stuff I'm going to reference here in just a minute. But what excited me was last month in this Sword and Shield video that we did, you see that red line that I drew across, right? Like one of the things that we see a lot here in the Pokemon space is you will go through these crazy ups and crazy downs, but then at the end of the down, you'll start to find these support lines. So as you can see, we all remember when everybody FOMO'd over Sword and Shield alt arts, right? As soon as booster boxes started to sell out on the Pokemon Center here in the US, then everything went crazy. Booster box prices spiked, alt art prices spiked, and you see that the value of the top 20 singles cards really aggressively spiked over the span of 3 months. And then what happened was what we kept saying would happen. We kept saying this isn't organic, this isn't natural, this is pure FOMO. The prices are going to come back down, and we saw that on the tail end, right? We saw the prices start to come back down as indicated by the graph here. But then what was really exciting here over the last 3 or 4 months, we've started to see the price kind of flatten out a little bit again, and that's where we've been able to see a lot of these eras kind of break out. So as I said, I do this for XY, and XY has been just an absolute gem to chart over the entire year of 2024 because it went through a pattern where towards late 2023, it started to hit that lower level, right? 2023 wasn't a great year for XY singles cards. The top 20 value was coming down. Then towards the end of the year, it started to flatten out. And every single month in 2024, every month without exception, I haven't pulled this month's yet, but every single month so far in 2024, the total aggregate value of those top 20 singles cards in the XY era has increased month over month, which is just incredible. And then 6 months ago, about 6 or 7 months ago, Sun and Moon did the exact same thing, right? So the top 20 single card prices were coming down. It started to hit a little bit of a flat point, and now over the last 6 months, the top 20 singles cards aggregate price for Sun and Moon has been going up. And so to me, that's really important because when I see a pattern like this in Sword and Shield, an era that I think is absolutely loved. It is a loved era. It's got amazing artwork and it's got all kinds of cool cards in it. It's got that intangible factor, right? It went through the pandemic. A lot of people were brought back into the hobby in Sword and Shield. So when I see it start to flatten out like this, one of the things we called out last month was, hey, listen, it might be on the verge of a breakout. Now, one of the things I like about keeping all this data too is I'm sure that there's going to be some natural reaction to say, well, you know, there's seasonality, right? It's December, everybody's Christmas shopping and all of that. But you can see last year, I mean, you can see in 2023, you got November, December, January, you know, the values were down, right? So October to November, it was down 2.75%. And then November to December, up 1%, which we could absolutely attribute to some seasonality, some Christmas shopping last year. But then January, February, you know, it was down 0.84% and then down 0.52%. So this year, we're seeing a little bit of a different trend versus those flatness. We're starting to see something that is really exciting, and I'll go ahead and show you where we're at. So from last month to this month, this is what happened, okay? We saw, again, another big spike in the top 20 singles cards value here in the Sword and Shield space. And I don't know if it'll be able to hang on. I don't know if it's going to eclipse the previous high that we saw in all of those FOMO eras, but it is really interesting to see this follow the same pattern as XY, follow the same pattern in Sun and Moon, but it's doing it at different time intervals. Like I said, XY went through this a year ago and it's been on a steady upward in the right trajectory ever since. Sun and Moon went through this 6 months ago and it's been on a steady upward in the right trajectory ever since. And now Sword and Shield, we're at the very beginning of these cards breaking out, and I don't know, the prices are really high to be honest with you, so I don't know if it's going to continue to break out, but it is fascinating to have this amount of information and data at our fingertips so we can at least guess or at least talk about it. So anyways, that's a ton of fun. So as you can see, from November to December, the total aggregate value of the top 20 singles cards in the Sword and Shield era was up 10.34% versus the previous month where it was up 6.38%. And another thing that I think is really cool, if you had bought all of these top 20 singles cards back when I started doing this in September, the total value of that was $6,790. And today, even with all the ups and downs, the lefts, the rights, the crazy things, the in stock, the out of stock, the total value of those top 20 singles cards is $9,182. So you would be sitting on a overall appreciation of 35%, which is nothing to shake a fist at over that period of time. It's really, really cool to see. And I love seeing that singles cards can do that. Matter of fact, one of the things that's on my back burner is I want to go back and look at maybe January of this year. Let's compare the PSA 10s of all of these chase cards. Let's compare the raw cards. Let's compare the booster boxes. And if we put them all in a head-to-head matchup, who's going to win in the end? I mean, my gut right now, without even looking at data, tells me booster boxes, but it'll be a fun exercise to go through, and I'm going to bring you that video here relatively soon. So speaking of all that, before I look at the booster box prices and before we get into the individual cards, listen, as you can tell, we do a ton of work on this channel behind the scenes. We have a ton of fun. If you're into that kind of stuff and you haven't yet, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. If you got questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. We got a small channel here. We really try and bring you the best information we can, and those three small things go a long way in helping us out. So now that we've talked about the singles cards, let's look at booster boxes. And no surprise to anybody, booster boxes have outperformed the singles cards, but it is interesting, right? Singles cards are up 35% over that time frame, and booster boxes are up 58%. Booster boxes are hands down the winner, but it is nice to see singles cards giving a strong showing over that same period of time. And again, a strong couple months here for booster boxes. No surprise here, Evolving Skies is on a tear, Fusion Strike is on a tear. We're going to talk about Brilliant Stars here in just a minute. Lost Origin is getting a ton of love. So again, nothing that you would not expect to see, but it is interesting when you see it all graphed out, how it does, just like singles cards, right? Remember, the singles cards went through that spike, and it went through a sharp decline. Remember that sharp drop after that FOMO event that we talked about? Well, booster boxes came down just a little bit, but certainly not as much. So I think in the booster box space, obviously the opportunity for some big gains with a little bit less volatility that you see in the singles cards market. So with that out of the way, let's start looking at some of these individual sets and some of these individual cards and how they performed month over month. And Silver Tempest. I have been talking about Silver Tempest forever, and it's not because of my Pokemon picking prowess or, you know, the genius mind in here about Pokemon, but I've kept saying, like, Silver Tempest has to sell out at some point here on the Pokemon Center in the US. It's at 2 years old. Actually, it's, I don't know, it's a month over 2 years old at this point. It's got to sell out, and it finally did, and it's exciting to say that. We can say all of all of what I consider the big chase booster boxes at the Pokemon Center here in the US are finally sold out. You've got a couple stragglers on there, Vivid Voltage and Battle Styles, but Silver Tempest is finally gone, and it's rewarded us with one heck of a month in terms of growth from the top 20 singles cards. That Lugia is absolutely on fire, up 28%. One of the things about Silver Tempest that I've been questioning, though, is does it have a really deep lineup that's going to really propel this into the top 4, top 5 overall booster boxes here in the Sword and Shield era? Love that Lugia card, but after that, I feel like there's a little bit of a drop off, and you can actually see it. You know, the top card right there is at $224, then it drops to a sub $40 card. So we'll just have to see. I've always said this. We don't know what Silver Tempest is going to be made of until it finally sells out on the Pokemon Center. Now it is. Give it a couple months to let some of it flush out of the system, and we'll see what it's made of. However, Lost Origin, I have been a huge fan of ever since day one. And I will tell you this about Lost Origin. That Giratina card at the very top represents everything that I think is right about Pokemon cards. I'm going to show you it in a minute, but listen, Lost Origin is shaping up to be one of the top 3 sets in the Sword and Shield era. It's no surprise. You know, I think Chilling Reign was up there, but I think Chilling Reign's starting to drop a little bit. You're going to see the price difference here between that and when we get to the Chilling Reign slide, but huge fan of Lost Origin, okay? And that Giratina is one of the big reasons why. And here's the thing. I mean, think about this card right here. You have amazing art. artwork, obviously. You have an amazing set in Lost Origin. Lost Origin is a deep set. You got that Aerodactyl up there, right? You've got some Pikachu cards in Lost Origin. Like, there's a lot of things to like about Lost Origin. And this card right here, you talk about it, this is for all, in the grand scheme of things, compared to all of the Sword and Shield alt arts in PSA 10 holders, from a population perspective, this is one of the lowest ones. It is a sub 6,000 pop card. Now, a lot of these PSA 10 populations for these chase cards in the Sword and Shield era, they're in the 7, 8, heck, most of them are over 10,000 right now. I mean, the Moonbryon, it doesn't matter because it's the Moonbryon, but that's almost at 15,000 for a population in PSA 10 right now. One of the things that helps keep this card's population low is, compared to all of its peers, this has the lowest gem rate of all of the chase cards in the Sword and Shield era, right? A lot of those VMAX cards where they don't have this defined silver border, I think that helps with the centering a whole heck of a lot. You know, those usually have a gem rate in like the high 60, low 70% range. So you throw this Giratina V with all of those intangibles around it in with a 47% gem rate, and I think this card is going to be very, very special for a very long time. And again, you can see it spiked all the way up during the FOMO period. It came all the way back down. We recognized when it hit that low point, we were like, listen, this card's fire. I'm telling you, it's going to take off for all the reasons we just talked about. And it has. It's been on a tear here as of late. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how it will continue to grow over time. But I do think Lost Origin has a very bright future, and this card is the cornerstone of that bright future. So the next set we're going to talk about, and there's a lot of slides on this next set, but I'm going to try and run through them very quickly. We talked 3 months ago about Astral, Radiance, and Brilliant Stars, and there was a couple things that we talked about, right? We talked about how I felt like both of these booster boxes, in terms of, you know, the overall Sword and Shield space, I felt like they were some really good values out there when you compared it to the Lost Origins, the Brilliant Stars, or excuse me, the Lost Origin, the Fusion Strike, the Evolving Skies. I felt like these were some really good values. But the other thing that I called out too was 3 months ago, if you look down here, the average of the top 20 singles cards in the Astral Radiance set was $23, and the average of the top 20 singles cards in the Brilliant Star set was $21.66. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, listen, like this has the Zard alt art in it, right? This has a really cool Arceus alt art in it. It's got Umbreons, it's got 2 trainer galleries of Umbreons, 2 trainer galleries of Sylveons, you got the legendary birds and the gold cards, like all of that. I thought this just doesn't make sense. And in that video, we talked about how a couple things are either going to happen. Either Astral Radiance will start to come down a little bit, or Brilliant Stars is going to come up. And we said, hey, listen, our money's on Brilliant Stars coming up. And then what happened the very next month? It was really cool to see. So Astral Radiance went down just a little bit, but Brilliant Stars overtook the lead, right? The average of the top 20 singles cards was at $23.13, so it finally leapfrogged over Astral Radiance, so really cool to see. We talked about that, and you also see both of those booster box prices up there. Both of those were pretty good gains. And now this month, again, really cool to see. Look at that. Green all over the place in Brilliant Stars. Booster boxes are both up. Brilliant Stars with the most. Matter of fact, when I did 5 investments that I'm really looking at for the month of December, Brilliant Stars booster boxes was on there because it was sub $200. And I said, I think the window of opportunity on these booster boxes sub $200 is closing really quickly. And I think we're there right now. So look at all that green in Brilliant Stars, right? Like, there's no surprise that Brilliant Stars is going to be a great set. I just think it's been lagging all of the other ones. And one of my favorite cards in Brilliant Stars right now, it's this Arceus. I love the artwork on this. I love the, you know, it's a popular Pokemon. Brilliant Stars is going to be a great set. I think the artwork on this is absolutely incredible. And when you look at how it's performed, you know, when we go through this video, you'll see a lot of spikes and drops and then immediately spikes back up. That's what the market's doing. But this Arceus is kind of lagging the market a little bit. And when you think about it, this card has the opportunity to really do well. So when I think about cards that might perform well in 2025, this card has a great opportunity. And again, as I said, you look at some of the other chase cards, this Charizard is exactly what I was talking about, right? It spiked all the way up during the FOMO. Then it came down, flattened out for a while, and now it's spiked back up to $181. Again, really cool card. I think Brilliant Stars has a lot going for it in the future as well. The next sets we're going to look at, Fusion Strike and Evolving Skies. Look at all the green. It just makes me giggle. It's crazy to see how these cards have performed month over month, especially after we saw that flattening out. So it's just really exciting for me. Sorry, I'm a data nerd, so I love it when things come together like this. But one of the things I've been saying about Evolving Skies for a while is, you know, you don't see a lot of sets out there that have tons of cards over $200. Can Evolving Skies be the unicorn? Can it be the set that does break that trend and have a lot of cards over $200? And I think right now we're all saying yes, yes, it absolutely can, right? Booster boxes are getting close to the $1,000 mark. They're at 930 something bucks. You got the Moonbryon sitting there at $1,400. You got all of these cards that are up over $200. I mean, Prismatic Evolutions, as if EV evolutions needed anything more to get them popular and to get them exciting and to get the price value up, then you got prismatic evolutions, which has everybody piling in as well. So I mean, I think Evolving Skies could absolutely be that unicorn. It's been a ton of fun to watch. But then don't sleep on Fusion Strike. I really think Fusion Strike is kind of making its case to be the #2 set here in the Sword and Shield era. Now, the thing you need to remember about Fusion Strike, if you weren't around back then, everybody hated Fusion Strike when it came out. Fusion Strike was a sub $100 booster box for like a year after it originally launched. Like, it took a while for the hobby to realize, holy crap, like this Gengar is absolute fire. Like the lineup here, you got Mew, like it is just a cool lineup. And all of a sudden the market caught on, and it's been just like a bat out of you-know-where over the last year and a half, 2 years. So it's been really cool to see it kind of start under the radar and then start flying back up. So really cool to see my man Gengar getting some love and to see all of these cards here popping up in value. So I told you it's been really fun to watch these EVs pop off, and that's what we're going to highlight here. The Sylveon here from Evolving Skies. I mean, look at what it's done over the last 3 months. Really cool price graph there. And then the next one here, you got the Glaceon. This is my favorite, right? Of the Sylveon, Glaceon, and Leafeon. I absolutely love this. You got my man Pikachu on here. I love when you have multiple Pokemon on a card. So this card did a little bit of what we talked about over the last 3 months. It was working its way down, found some support, and then started working its way back up. And then you got the Leafeon here, which did the same thing, that bowl pattern, right? And that's what we try and identify on this channel. We try and look for opportunities when cards are finding a lot of support, and then obviously they have a tendency to pick back up there. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to hold on to their gains, but hey, it's better to bet on what you think will happen than have this unknown. So it's really fun to watch these trends over time. Now, another set that I've been talking about, and I won't say I've been talking about it negatively, but Chilling Reign is one I've been kind of scratching my head about a little bit, simply because, you know, Chilling Reign was the #2 booster box set for a long time. Then you had Fusion Strike take over, right? Now you have Lost Origin, which is over Chilling Reign. So I've done this very dad joke-esque thing I've been saying is Chilling's reign coming to an end here. And it's not that I don't love the artwork. I think all of these cards have incredible art. That's what got Chilling Reign to where it is, but does it have the star power? Does it have the big name Pokemon in it? Obviously, you got the Kickin' Chicken at the very top, but outside of that, it's just going to be interesting to see what these cards can do over the long run. And then Battle Styles, I've been a fan of Battle Styles forever. Like, if I'm going to pick a hill to die on, I died on the Battle Styles hill incorrectly. Now, do I think that what's going to happen is when some of these other booster boxes start to get, I don't know what price point it's going to take, $300, $350, whatever. But then I think that, you know, Battle Styles will start to become a value play and people will start to rotate into it. It's got that Tyranitar at the top. It's got alt arts. You know, it's got some really cool cards in it, but I think we're going to have to get these other more popular booster boxes up to a much higher price before Battle Styles gets its love. And now, what I wanted to call out too is I told you, not poo-pooing Chilling Reign. I love the artwork of all these cards. I think it's a really cool set. My daughters love it, right? It's got a lot of really cool cards in it. But when you look at the chase card, right, we've seen what the Giratina was doing on the very first slide we looked at. We saw what that Charizard was doing, right? So the big chase cards of these sets with the high booster box prices went through this period where they spiked up, they came down, and now they're all spiking back up. Well, the Blaziken isn't doing quite what the other ones are doing. So this is something I'm going to keep an eye on. And again, I always call this out. If you look to the far right of that graph, you'll see those light blue bar graphs that go up and down. Those represent volume, the number of cards that have been sold. So you can see that there's been a lot of people buying it as of late, while it's at this low 287 price point, which is, I guess, comparatively low. Certainly not saying 280 bucks for a Pokemon card isn't a lot of money. It absolutely is. But when you compare it to its peers, it's down there. So it'll be interesting to see if this one starts to catch on with the other trends and start to take off a little bit. But I thought that was really cool to call out. As we've seen the Giratina, as we've seen the Charizard, is this one now going to follow suit? And it's just lagging a little bit behind. So next one right here, Vivid Voltage and Darkness Ablaze. I will admittedly say these final two slides aren't really exciting, but we got to talk about them because we're covering the whole Sword and Shield era. And it looks like Vivid Voltage had a really strong month, but I'm going to tell you what, it's because all of those card prices were incredibly low. Same thing with Darkness Ablaze, right? Like, don't get excited because that Charizard from Darkness Ablaze is up 23% month over month. I mean, it was starting at $20 or $28 or something like that last month. However, I have been steadfast in my commitment to that Rainbow Chunkachu from Vivid Voltage. You know, every time this card gets right near the $100 mark, it almost immediately pops back up. This card has a floor of $100, and I think there's a lot going on with this card that not everybody remembers, right? Like, Vivid Voltage was the set when the pandemic hit. Like, this is what everybody was going after. This Pikachu, I mean, this was a $300 card. PSA 10s of this were going for $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 back then, and then Pokemon Company did what they should do. They printed a ton of product in order to meet the demand, in order to fight the scalpers, and they blasted blasted it into the market. So Vivid Voltage has never been able to recover. And this Pikachu right here, you know, it's a beautiful card. I think maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you know, when people start coming back into the hobby that were there for the pandemic and they left for whatever reason, I think this card's going to hold a special place in their heart. So is there going to be some kind of long pull, like maybe this thing's going to pop off randomly 10, 15 years from now? Absolutely. Do I think it's a really safe card to have? Yeah, I think there's a very solid floor that's established. Do I think the artwork's really cool and the story behind it? Absolutely. So I think it's got a lot going on, but if you're looking something that's going to 2x over the next 2 to 3 years, this card ain't it. But if you're looking for something really cool to have in the collection all freaking day on my Pikachu right here. Final slide right here. Listen, when you look at these booster box prices, Sword and Shield is at $331. Rebel Clash is at $228. These are just rarity plays. These were before the pandemic. These were before production is what it is today. I mean, even if you look at the Rebel Clash Elite Trainer box coming in at almost $150, right? Then you look at the cards below it. I mean, the chase card, I won't even call it a chase card. It's Boss's Order, right? And Rebel Clash coming in at $40. Outside of that, it just drops off the cliff. And, you know, we saw all this green and all of these other sets. And yeah, Sword and Shield over there. I know the top 20 cards on whole are up 2% versus the previous month, but just not a lot of gains, not a lot of excitement. Matter of fact, I really had to search and dig for the card to highlight here. So I decided to highlight a card that has a really cool memory for me. And it's this one right here, this Snorlax VMAX. I remember when me and my oldest daughter, you know, she was just getting into Pokemon cards. And I remember we opened a Sword and Shield base set pack and we pulled this card and she was super excited. We sent it to PSA. We got it graded. It came back into PSA 10. So just a cool card that's going to hold a place in my memory for a long time. A lot of that is what this whole hobby is about. Just memories, and at least for me, it's memories with my young ones. And you know, who knows? Hopefully someday I'll hand this collection down to them. But as you can see, this one has had a great year. It's up about 57% over the last year. And I'm very lucky. I got a great memory and a great card and a PSA 10, so we'll see what the future holds for it. But that's it. That's the whole rundown of Sword and Shield, what's happened month over month. I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope you found value in it. And I hope you have it in your heart to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, or drop a comment down below if you did. You guys have an epic one. I appreciate you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.